All right, guys, have you ever picked up your phone to check the time, or maybe one of your friends sent you a video on social media, and then 45 minutes later, you're still there, you're checking all of these other videos that keep popping up? That's that's something that I think we all have experienced. What happens when the doom scrolling stops, and why it's both harder and better than you think? Welcome back to the Main Allure podcast. My name is Laura, and today we're going to be diving into something we all think about doing, but most of us never really actually commit to because it's so difficult, and that is disconnecting from social media. We're going to talk about all the weird challenges, how difficult it is to emotionally detox from that experience, and the surprising benefits that kick in after you go through that really bad hump of discomfort. And yes, I'll be sharing some of the embarrassing moments when I try to go offline officially and still somehow manage to open up my Instagram because, hey, it's just muscle memory. So let's get into it. Okay, I think we have to get real here and understand and realize that logging off sounds great in theory. It is absolutely something that we all wish we could just do at a whim until you actually try to do it. Suddenly you feel like almost like a modern day caveman who just lost their magic mirror. And it's kind of like that time, you remember if you were around in the 90s when you go from 1999 to the Y2K era and you feel like everybody has left you behind. But the truth is that, it's a little bit of an exaggeration. It's not as bad, but it's still so difficult to go through in the beginning. You start checking your fridge, like it's Twitter or, Threads or Instagram, whatever. And you start opening your laundry. You just, looking out the window every time because you're just so used to doing something with your hands, or even if it's just scrolling through your phone. You pick up your phone and stare at the home screen like it's going to perform something for you, like it's just waiting for you to tell it, come, tell me something great, tell me something wonderful. And so you actually get FOMO, which is the fear of missing out because you don't know what your cousin's doing with their dog. Or, maybe your friend went on a date and you're waiting to see pictures or videos or something that they're posting just to see what they're up to and how it went. Of course, you can always just pick up the phone and call them, right? But it's just so much easier to just look through their social media and see what they're up to. But the hard truth is that you don't realize just how addicting it is until you are trying to stop. Full stop. That's not really your fault. These apps are literally made and designed to pretty much make you want to become an addict, right? That whole dopamine, it just becomes like an addiction where you just want to constantly be fed these experiences because it does make you feel good. And sometimes as a result, you get anxiety when you don't even know what's going on, right? So just remember that it's all by design, and with a little bit of time and a little bit of patience, we can get through it, and you can get through detoxing from social media. All of you who are listening did take some time to take those 48 hours to detox from social media. And if you didn't, that's okay. You still have time. You can do that at any time, right? The point is to go through that experience and get to see what it feels like. So that whole detoxing period, I'm going to be very honest, it is extremely difficult, especially if you've never done it, or if, your life is pretty much on social media, which is understandable. But not to be confused with the internet, because we obviously all need the internet to survive at this point. We have to, most of us, work with computers and things like that. So let's make sure that we differentiate the internet with social media. When you think about social media, here's what no one tells you. Those first few days absolutely suck. It's like, you almost feel like a crackhead. You know what I'm saying? You feel bored, left out, you're restless, you start tapping your feet. You feel like you've just been dumped by your toxic but fun ex, right? Like that. The one that's just all over the place, but somehow you just keep going back to. That's that feeling. I mean, how many times have you decided, maybe if you have tried to detox and you decide to delete an app from your from your phone, and then somehow you end up Googling things and then you end up seeing a link of that social media platform on your search. You're like, well, I'm technically not on my phone, right? Like I deleted the app. Somehow this is just a search online on my laptop. Big difference. I'm not logged in. So you end up justifying that whole process, but you're still doing it, right? You're still looking through social media. And the truth is that the silence that you go through while you're detoxing is so uncomfortable because you're so used to that noise. You're so used to scrolling and seeing the videos and people dancing and people talking and making jokes. And even now, when there's like so much going on in the world, you want to stay connected and feel like you know what's going on, right? But the discomfort doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means that you're growing. So whenever you feel like you have to disconnect and remove yourself, right? Because even in these current times, you almost feel like you have to remove yourself and disconnect in order to feel sane. Again, it just means that you're growing, that you're going through a phase where you need to process what you're feeling and what you're experiencing, instead of just allowing the internet or social media rather to translate that for you or to tell you what you're supposed to feel. So what happens after you start that whole detox process? And we already spoke about what happens in the beginning, right? Like you start feeling anxious and you feel like you're losing it. But something happens after a few days, right? And obviously our challenge was just 48 hours, so it was really just going through the motions. But if you were able to extend that time, I've done it for months at a time. I think one time I did it for a year, which was actually pretty calming. And that's what happens to you. And that's what will happen to you if you decide to extend that time. That whole idea, after a few days, your brain just stops yearning and itching for that dopamine. Your body feels calmer. You start to sleep better because you're not anticipating doing this right before you go to bed. You actually learn to hear your own thoughts again. And the whole thing is, you even start reading books. Maybe you want to write a book. Anything that you feel you haven't been able to do, you're thinking about those things now. There could be a point where you go outside in the yard, you're like, the grass looks a little too high. Let me go ahead and mow the lawn, because I actually didn't realize it was growing this much because I've been just so busy going through social media and doom scrolling and keeping my brain busy doing other things. You stop comparing yourself to everyone's reels or TikToks or whatever, and you do actually start to reconnect with what you actually care about. And not necessarily what's trending. You start paying attention to your surroundings, what is important to you, and you give that more focus, which in return, right, you start feeling so much better because it's something that you can touch and feel. It's something that's tangible. You're not necessarily looking outward into what the rest of the universe is doing. You're focusing on those little things that matter. Maybe you can spend more time with family. Maybe you can go out and go for a walk, get to meet your neighbors, right? So pay attention to that. And those are some of the great benefits that come with detoxing, is realizing that there's more to life, right, than just the internet, than just social media. You go from, well, what will people think if I don't post something, to, well, who cares? I actually like this moment for me. You start to realize that not everything needs to be posted online, that some things could be kept for you. And when you do that, it almost feels like a treasure trove that you keep for yourself, because unless the people around you are there every day to experience those things with you, then, Does it matter that they see it or not? Absolutely not. And suddenly, when you do this, your worth is no longer measured by your followers, by your likes, by the reactions of other people. You're doing it because you genuinely and authentically want to do them, and because that's what really matters to you. Now, you may be wondering what happened during my 48-hour detox. And of course, I already spoke about all of the things like going through the motions of feeling the pressure of not opening a different account. But it didn't. Oh my God, I'm laughing because I have to be honest. I did try, but I did end up just ruining it because it ended up being a reflex of just seeing the app and you just naturally open it, right? So I ended up opening Instagram by mistake. And then, of course, I lasted like maybe 10 minutes because something caught my eye, caught my attention, and I ended up sticking with it for 10 minutes. But I realized it. Now, you gotta give it up to me because I did realize I had made a mistake and ended up closing it really quickly and continuing with my journey. But it was extremely hard to just get rid of that reflex of opening social media. And I'm sure it was just as difficult for you. So again, I encourage you to do it. It's going to feel amazing once you're done. So if you can stick with it for longer than 48 hours, maybe a week, you can do that. You can try a day, maybe 2 days, 3, a week, a month, until you figure out like, hey, you know what? I could actually last a lot longer than I thought, which will be a great challenge and a great feat for you because we all know how difficult it is, especially now that it's getting warm outside here in the States. So just think about it and try to challenge yourself. That's one way for you to challenge yourself and see just what you can do. All right, let's talk about the real life benefits of detoxing from social media. And one of them is having a lot more time than you usually do. So think of all of the things that you want to do that you wish you could do if you had more time. And a lot of that is replaced by us spending more time on social media. So once you step back and you spend less time doom scrolling and looking online at what everybody else is doing, you will have more time for things like journaling, things like calling your friends. Maybe it's a good time to catch up with someone that you haven't spoken to in a while, and then just telling each other stories instead of waiting until they post something online. Maybe now they have to actually physically or vocally tell you what they've been up to. Because in reality, we spend so much time just waiting for other people to announce what they're going through or what they're doing, that it almost leaves us nothing to talk about when you're actually in conversations with someone. So it's always best to, if you're going through this detox, take some time. Pick up the phone, not texting, because to me, texting, you could do that on social media too. So pick up the phone, talk to someone, hear someone's voice. I don't know how often you do that, but it's amazing. Like, FaceTime someone, video chat with someone, leave them voice notes. These are things that will make you feel a lot more connected to other people as a result of you just not focusing so much on the visuals and what you see. I had more time to try things I always said I didn't have time for. And it turns out that I did. So I was just too busy watching people decorate their cakes or dancing, making jokes, whatever the case, right? So that's something that I realized that was super important for me, understanding that we are so attached to our phones and social media that we don't realize how much of a connection we're losing with others, that we solely depend on just the presentation of it all, right? And when you start to detach from social media itself, you start to really see people as human. And I know it sounds weird, but it's true, right? It almost feels like when you're looking at people through that lens on the phone, they almost don't seem real. But the moment that you start actually talking to people and having conversations, you start to feel a little bit more human, a little bit more empathetic, more sympathetic even to the needs and wants of others, so that it's not always about how you feel about the presentation. It's also about how they feel about themselves, right? And being there and showing up for people who you care about. So we, in essence, don't need more apps. We need more presence. And when we stop being so available to everyone online 24/7, we become more available to ourselves and to others, because there's more to life than social media. So if you're thinking about taking a break from social media, just do it. It'll be awkward at first, I promise, but it's like showing up to a party with no makeup on, right? It's going to feel weird at first, but after a while, you're going to forget that you don't have any makeup, that maybe you didn't bring a tie or whatever it is, right? You're going to stop being self-conscious about it, and you're going to just roll with it. But I promise you that if you stay with it, on the other side, there's going to be a lot more clarity, a lot more confidence, and a quieter kind of joy that just doesn't need to be posted. You are going to feel so privileged to have things that belong to you and don't need to be posted. And that's okay. So here's your reminder. Logging off doesn't mean that you're missing out. You actually have more time to do the things that you want to do. And it means that you're finally tuning in to what you want, to what you wish you could do. You'll have more time for the things that you care about. And by the way, I kind of want to give you some challenges. So in the next challenge, I know how difficult it is to stick to a routine. And sometimes you don't need routines, right? Some people just go with whatever happens, right? It's okay to be spontaneous. But the benefits of having a routine is knowing that you have something to look forward to. So that's the challenge that we're going to do for next week. Waking up at the same time every day. And so whatever that means to you, if you always wake up at 9 or 8, try to wake up a little earlier, doing something like 6 a.m. If you wake up at 6 a.m. all the time, then you're already ahead of the rest of us. But if not, if you're having troubles sticking to a routine, try to just wake up at the same time every day. And if you work at night, whatever that time means to you, just try it out. Try to keep up that consistency and then see how it goes. And I'm going to share my experience as well next week. So make sure you tune in. Stay present, stay grounded, and maybe put your phone down for 1 minute. So you just might like what you find. You just might be pleasantly surprised. Thank you for listening to the Main podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, bye.